We now come to Sir Paul Beresford.
Deputy Speaker, I'm a little cautious joining this debate because I haven't got the full knowledge that many of you have, or the experience, and I haven't got many cases in my constituency. I have a considerable number over the years of cases of dealing with the HMRC. And contrary to the points that many of the people made, individual approaches to individual taxation experts in HMRC have been extremely positive. And I have found that the cases have been listened to and we've got some dramatic changes. I've got 6 loan charges and I've got one other one that I think is slightly relevant. It's not a loan charge. I was approached by this individual some years ago. He was divorced and his wife, some years before, moved, of all places, to New Zealand. He had a large monthly payment to her and some support for the child, and she remained single. So he thought. And after a considerable number of years, he discovered that in fact she had got married and all that maintenance that he had paid over those years, vast sums, he shouldn't have paid. So he stopped paying. And HMRC came along and said, why aren't you paying it? Because it was tax deductible. And he explained. And they said, well, the money you've paid when you shouldn't have paid is now counted as profits. And we would like tax on that, plus interest. He wasn't suicidal. He came close to considering murder, but wasn't suicidal. The ex-wife is still alive. And we went and saw HMRC. And we got an agreement on this retrospective, if you like to call it, or retroactive payment. It was spread over time. The collector was eminently reasonable, and it was managed. And when the circumstances of this individual changed, he went to university. Again, we went back, and again they changed it. So if there's anything else we get out of here, what I am saying to my 6 loan charge cases, or those who want help, and only 2 of them do, is that I'm prepared to take up their cases and work with them. Because you all in this chamber will realise when you've got that portcullis on your letter and you ask for a meeting, it happens. And that has to be the best way through it. Now, what I have discovered in doing this is that some of the information that the Inland Revenue, the HMRC, have been given by those 2 cases doesn't match the real information. And when I hear members say, as we have, that the communications have broken down, that the information they've used has given incorrect decisions, some of that because they are not, and probably deliberately, being given every sample of the information that they need to come to a fair and clear decision. I couldn't believe 2 of them in particular, who are bright individuals, professionals and independent, that they had actually taken up their particular loans. And I asked one of them to explain it to me, because I'm fairly simple, I can only count to 32, that how they came about it. And they said, well, we were told it was all right. And I said, yes, by who? They said the promoters. And I said, can you describe it to me? Well, they said, we worked for whoever it was, and they gave me money, but it wasn't payment, it was a loan. I said, fine. What's the interest on it? Oh, there's no interest. When do you pay it back? Oh, we're not going to pay it back, and we're not paying any tax on it. I said, that's just too good to be true.
Were the only going to give way?
Just once, very quickly.
I must confess that I share some of his mixed feelings about this issue, particularly as what my constituents say to me and what the Minister says to me. There seems to be a disparity. Where there does seem to be culpability from HMRC, from my perspective, is that they knew full well about some of these loan schemes for a very long time, and then subsequently a political decision was made to call them in, and that political decision actually could have been taken much, much earlier, so they wouldn't have seen some of this damage, and that creates a lot of uncertainty within the wider tax system, which actually is very corrosive.
I thank the honourable lady for nothing else, but she's given me a minute more. I'll leave that for the Minister to answer. I can only go by the 6 cases I've seen, and that doesn't apply in the 6 cases that I've seen. So if I can say anything to members, please, can you get these cases? Can you put them together? Can you go and ask an individual senior tax inspector? No, I've got no time, it's up. And I found them really cooperative, the inspector and the collector, because it makes such a difference to these people's lives, and the look on their faces when I've come out of the meetings with the officials of relief and an acceptance that they're going to have to pay it, even though it is many are calling retrospective, I call retroactive. And I do remember the case of the divorced man who didn't commit murder, and his bill was way up over £100,000.
Sammy Wilson.